Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our English Learning Podcast. I'm Jennifer, and as always, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Elizabeth. How are you doing today, Elizabeth?
Hi, Jennifer. I'm doing great, thank you. I'm really excited about today's topic because it's something that every English learner needs to understand. Formal and informal speaking ***. Knowing when to use formal language and when to use informal language is essential for effective communication. It helps you adjust your tone depending on the situation, whether you're chatting with friends or speaking in a business meeting.
Absolutely, Elizabeth. This is a fundamental skill that can make a big difference in how you're perceived by others. Using the right level of formality can help you sound more natural and appropriate in different settings. Today, we'll explore what formal and informal speaking are, when to use them, and we'll give you some practical examples to help you understand the differences.
Yes, and as always, we encourage our listeners to take notes and try to use the vocabulary and phrases we discuss in your own conversations. Practicing these skills will help you become more comfortable with adjusting your language based on the situation.
That's right. So, let's start by explaining what we mean by formal and informal speaking. Elizabeth, could you break it down for us?
Sure, Jennifer. Formal speaking is used in situations where you want to show respect, professionalism, or politeness. It's often used in workplaces, academic settings, or when you're speaking to someone you don't know very well. Formal language tends to be more structured, with complete sentences, proper grammar, and a more serious tone. You'll often use titles like Mr. or Ms. and avoid slang or casual expressions.
Exactly. On the other hand, informal speaking is used in more relaxed, casual situations. This might be when you're talking to friends, family, or people you know well. Informal language is more relaxed and conversational. You might use contractions, slang, and even some humor. The sentences are usually shorter, and the tone is friendly and easygoing.
Yes, and knowing when to switch between formal and informal language is key to sounding natural in English. For example, you wouldn't speak to your boss the same way you speak to your best friend. It's all about understanding the context and choosing the right words and tone for the situation.
Exactly. Let's dive a bit deeper into some key differences between formal and informal speaking. Elizabeth, could you share some examples of formal versus informal language?
Of course. Let's start with greetings. In a formal setting, you might say, "Good morning, Mr. Smith. How are you today?" This shows respect and professionalism. But in an informal setting, you could say, "Hey, John, how's it going?" This is much more relaxed and casual.
That's a great example. Another difference is how we make requests. In a formal situation, you might say, "Would you be able to assist me with this task?" It's polite and shows respect for the other person's time. But informally, you could say, "Can you help me out with this?" It's direct and friendly.
Yes, and you'll also notice differences in how we apologize. In a formal setting, you might say, "I apologize for the inconvenience. I appreciate your understanding." But in an informal context, you might just say, "Sorry about that. Thanks for being cool about it." The informal version is more casual and relaxed.
Definitely. And how about closing a conversation? In a formal setting, you might say, "Thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you." But informally, you could say, "Thanks. Talk to you soon." The formal version is more structured, while the informal one is brief and friendly.
Exactly. These are just a few examples, but they highlight the importance of adjusting your language based on the situation. It's also important to note that cultural context plays a big role in formal and informal speaking. In some cultures, formal language might be used more frequently, while in others, people might prefer a more informal style, even in professional settings.
That's a great point, Elizabeth. Understanding the cultural context is crucial for using formal and informal language appropriately. For our listeners, we encourage you to pay attention to how native speakers switch between formal and informal language in different situations. This can give you a better sense of when to use each style.
Yes, and a good way to practice is by thinking about how you would respond to different situations. For example, how would you greet someone at a job interview versus how you would greet a friend at a party? Try to practice these scenarios in English using the appropriate level of formality.
That's a fantastic exercise, Elizabeth. And remember, practicing both formal and informal speaking will help you become more confident and versatile in your English conversations. Now, let's take a call from one of our listeners who wants to share their thoughts on formal and informal speaking. Let's take the call. Hi there, you're on the air with Jennifer and Elizabeth. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Elizabeth. My name is Ahmed, and I'm calling from Cairo, Egypt. I've been listening to your podcast for a while, and I find it really helpful. This topic about formal and informal speaking is really interesting, and I wanted to share my experience.
Hi, Ahmed. It's great to hear from you. Thanks for calling in. We'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you handle formal and informal speaking in English?
Well, I've noticed that in my job, I need to use formal language a lot, especially when I'm writing emails or speaking to clients. I usually start with something like, "Dear Mr. Johnson, I hope this message finds you well." But when I'm with my friends or colleagues, I switch to informal language, saying things like, "Hey, how's everything going?" It took me some time to get comfortable with switching between the two, but I think it's really important to understand the difference.
That's a great observation, Ahmed. It sounds like you've done a great job of adapting your language to fit the situation. Do you have any tips for other English learners who are trying to master formal and informal speaking?
Yes, I would say practice is key. I found it helpful to listen to how native speakers talk in different settings, like in movies, TV shows, or even business meetings. I also try to mimic their style and tone, depending on whether the situation is formal or informal. It really helped me become more confident in my speaking.
That's excellent advice, Ahmed. Listening to and mimicking native speakers is a great way to improve your formal and informal speaking skills. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you both. I really enjoyed the discussion. Have a great day.
You too, Ahmed. Take care. That was such a great call. It's always helpful to hear how other learners are practicing and improving their English speaking skills.
Yes, Ahmed's focus on practice and listening to native speakers is really important. It's a reminder that mastering formal and informal language takes time, but with consistent practice, it becomes much easier.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up today's discussion, let's do a quick recap of some of the key points we've covered. We talked about the differences between formal and informal speaking, when to use each style, and how to adjust your language depending on the situation.
We also gave examples of formal versus informal language, and we discussed the importance of understanding the cultural context when choosing your level of formality. Remember, using the right level of formality in your speaking can make a big difference in how you're perceived by others.
Yes, and for our listeners, we encourage you to practice switching between formal and informal language in different scenarios. Try greeting someone formally and then informally. Make a request politely and then casually. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel.
And if you're enjoying our podcast and finding these discussions helpful for learning English, make sure to give us a rating and share it with others who are also learning. Your support really helps us keep creating content that helps you improve your English.
And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We have plenty more episodes coming your way, covering essential English skills in a fun and practical way.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Keep practicing, stay curious, and embrace the process of learning English. You're doing great!
We'll see you in the next episode. Take care and keep improving your English skills.
Bye for now.